Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Deeptown Diver's virtual reality show. And today, I'm very honored and excited to have Amy Peck with us as a guest. Hello, Amy. Thank you for coming. Amy is the founder of EndeavorVR. She's a speaker and XR futurist. And today, we'll discuss all the news about VR, blockchain, AI, and all of the goodness which is coming up. All right. So welcome, Amy. Thanks again for coming to our show. Very exciting and very excited to have you with us. And let's directly dive into that. So I guess for those, I would definitely say that there is a minority. But for those who don't know you, what you do, and how did you get into the XR market, VR, AR? How did you maybe a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, of course. I think we always joke that always remember your first time in VR. And mine was, I was charged with launching the enterprise division at Leap Motion, which is
Mm-hmm.
a gesture tracking peripheral. And that was about the same time the very first Oculus DK1 came out.
Right.
And in our infinite, engineering wisdom, very, very high tech activation, we duct taped a leap motion to the front of the DK1. And then I was able to see my hands in a virtual environment. So that was the aha moment for
Mm-hmm.
me. And then I really just started focusing my energies from within Leap Motion. And then later on, decided to start my own consulting firm because I recognized not only the myriad applications that there were for VR and later AR for enterprise, but that there was a lot of sort of misunderstanding about the technology. So I started my company back in 2015, and here we are today in 2020.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've told already a story of how I get into VR. It was in 2016, trying HTC Vive with full room scale experience. It was an amazing experience at that time, and I mean it still is. So yeah, for me that was an aha moment at that moment. And maybe coming back to the leap motion stuff, because I remember I was the Kickstarter backer of Leap Motion. I think I guess it was a Kickstarter. Yeah, I think they did a Kickstarter.
Yeah, it was. Yep, that was
So
the
I
original
still have
campaign.
still have an original Kickstarter backer Leap Motion in my home, and at that time that was a device which was positioned to kind of combat the classical keyboard, if I remember correctly. So that like you get this new way how to type, maybe how to interact with your computer. It seemed cool. Nobody thought about VR at that time when it was originated. If it was it like this, right? It was I guess like this. And
Yes.
and and how was the
Yeah, you're
story
exactly
about
right.
them going into VR? And because they made a big pivot, I think, with the software and with how they positioned their company. Do you have any insights from the inside the company? How did all that worked?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is all fairly public, but it's been a while now. So, because of that kind of initial integration into the DK1, they certainly started to have conversations with Oculus about, what would hand tracking in VR look like? And originally, to your point, it was really a consumer peripheral.
Mm-hmm.
And so, unfortunately, within the kind of construct of the company at Leap Motion, they weren't really set up to service enterprise at that point. And it was really interesting, probably about a year in after their launch. So I think they launched, it was roughly like summer of 2013. So,
Mm-hmm.
by summer of 2014, they really started to look more at the enterprise space. And you could see them start to turn not only into enterprise, but their energies into virtual reality. We did, activations at CES with Daimler, Mercedes, and from that point on, I think they were very much focused on enterprise and, all the way up to their acquisition with Ultraleap. And it'll be very interesting to see how that evolves now that they've added kind of the haptics and hand tracking together. So I'm interested to see, the evolution from there.
Yeah, cool. For me, I always kind of, I lost track of Leap Motion a little bit after, the initial idea not died out, but when they started to refocus themselves, and then I kind of like thought, okay, maybe the tech is too far away from being realistically used. And then it resurfaced to me several years ago when I saw some demos of, and people actually using the Leap Motion to do stuff in VR. But it was like Leap Motion is an interesting is an interesting example of how the company could go from the Kickstarter to become a kind of a major company player, and then
Hmm.
pivot successfully from one idea to another, but not changing the core of the idea, which I liked. It's an interesting pivot, and yeah, I hope they succeed
Yeah,
in
I
their
do
stuff,
too.
because the tech is working, obviously. Um, and okay, and EndeavorVR. So you are a founder of EndeavorVR. What is your main focus there? What do you do? How do you what could be done there? And what is your what is your main day-to-day business in the Endeavor?
Yeah, so it's sort of two paths. So the first track, of course, is focused very much on our enterprise clients. So it's mostly Fortune 500, and I would even say, more closely Fortune 100 companies,
Great.
and really helping them look at not only some of the problems that they're trying to solve, but just ways that they can bring immersive technology into their workflows. And then in some cases, we're seeing even more recently than how that impacts if they're a consumer-facing brand,
Mm-hmm.
how that then impacts consumers and how to bring kind of loyalty programs and AR to some of their marketing programs. And then on the other side, we work very closely with ISVs, independent software
Mm-hmm.
vendors who have great solutions, like Somnium Space, and really helping them go to market. And it's sort of bridging that gap. It's finding the best in class solutions that are out there and helping them gain those first few customers in the enterprise space and package them
Right.
up so that they can succeed in that realm.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I guess in that respect, maybe the first question, when you work with those big companies, and of course you can name some if you can, or just generally, where do you see their focus right now is going? More into AR or more into VR? And how do they perceive like the management, for example? I mean, I've worked some times ago, some years ago, in the multinational company, right? And I know how the management structure works and how those discussions are.
Mhm.
But how do you see management perceive VR, AR, and where do you see the main focus is?
Well, it's interesting because it really runs the gamut. We do see trends. I mean, I think when I started Endeavor, it was very much focused on training because we
Right.
we knew what the metrics were, we knew the ROI, and it's a proven technology for
Mm-hmm.
training. But now companies are even before COVID, we're starting to look at, all right, now we have headsets, now we have training set up. What are some of the other ways we can leverage the technology? And AR kind of came in, and MR sort of came in a little bit later. And so, AR is incredibly valuable because there's, web-based AR, but there's mobile AR,
Yeah.
which we can leverage today. So part of, our job at Endeavor is to really, again, look at the entire landscape, look at the company and their business challenges and their products and services of the
Mm-hmm.
future and build that roadmap. And again, not just bring the technology in for technology's sake.
Right. Okay. And what is your personal take? You're very experienced in VR, also in AR. In the next, let's say, 3 years, 2 to 3 years, what will succeed more, given all the information we know? Will AR overtake VR, or do you think that VR will grow faster and will gain more traction? Let's say because it's already growing quite fast, but and AR is in infancy. Let's say we have some rumors about
Mhm.
Apple and Real coming into the market. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think AR is coming in the near term, and I think when Apple releases their first glasses, which are rumored to be coming in 2022, with then sort of more robust, mixed reality glasses in 2023, I think that is going to be a big driver, actually, for both AR and
Mm-hmm.
VR. And on the AR front, I think it's going to start to educate us on how we make that transition from mobile today to AR glasses and wearables being the next computing platform. But we still need a lot more data on just user interaction.
Yeah,
What feels natural to the broadest swath of consumers. And then the other thing that I think will happen is that AR will bring more curiosity into VR, and consumers will start to understand really what the
I
differences are.
agree. Yeah,
Because if you ask the average person on the street, they don't know.
no idea.
And VR, again, I've said this before, but VR is a destination, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
going into VR with a purpose in mind.
Yeah.
So it will always be somewhat of a smaller market, but I think in terms of what it does offer, it has incredible value. Like the training in VR, the numbers are incredible, the retention is incredible. And when we start to look at the opportunities in entertainment
Mm-hmm.
and gaming, esports, that's where it's really going to start to engage the consumer on a whole new way. I mean, you can actually follow your favorite team or league in esports and float, over the action in VR
Yeah.
without disturbing the game. And you can stand next to your favorite players. So that's going to be game changing. And you think of, entertainment, um, you
Yeah.
know,
Everything basically.
concerts
Concerts. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just yeah. And even standard, traditional entertainment, TV shows and film, being able to have more of a game construct with, multiple storylines and things happening in real time.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I also think that AR will be a catalyst for more usage of VR because people would just better understand what those glasses are used for,
Hmm.
um, and then it's also about the way how how people will perceive that, and we see VR is the final destination, as we say here. It's maybe you will have a kind of shorter hours spent in VR than AR, but the emotional connection to what you can do and what you're actually doing in VR will be always much higher, just because you are fully immersed into something you believe, or your brain believes what your eyes are seeing, right? And even today already, so the technology is already here. So that we always say, yes, even if you spend 30 minutes in VR, it actually transforms into some very, very memorable moments in your life. So that's always
Hmm.
good, and I think that will always be like this. Yes, you will have. So my personal, when I first tried VR in 2016, I kind of saw the path, and I said, okay, in 5 years, everybody will have smartphone VR headset next to their PC at home, and they'll be using it, occasionally just to take and immerse themselves, could disconnect from the real world, maybe connect with their friends, and then they will be continue using their mobile phones and computers. I didn't think about AR at that time, but now we know that mobile phones definitely are changing to the AR stuff. Yeah, and coming back to what is today, maybe I always like to ask the question: what was the most memorable news from VR XR industry in the past maybe few weeks, which caught your attention and you thought, oh, that's very interesting, that's something which might lead to something bigger? Do you have anything like that from the past 2 3 weeks?
Well, I think there's been quite a lot. I think, HTC announcing XR Suite
Yeah.
was a big announcement, and that is certainly something that now post-COVID, these kinds of environments now are amazing to be connected. I mean, we're on opposite sides of the world.
Yeah.
I haven't seen you since the last time I was in Prague, I think for Future
Yeah,
Port
exactly. Future
Prague, and
port.
yet
Yeah.
here we are right
Yeah.
next to each other. And so I think that was great. I also think, Magic Leap has a new CEO
Mm-hmm.
from Microsoft, formerly Microsoft, which is really exciting because, love Magic Leap, whatever your feelings are for Magic Leap, it's really important that they succeed. And what they're doing is incredibly difficult, and it's amazing they've gotten this far. And so I really hope that this next evolution takes them even further, and they're really able to release it looks like they're going to be focused on enterprise, that they'll release
Yeah.
a more enterprise grade product in the near future, which would be really exciting for me personally too.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked with Charlie several episodes back
Hmm.
with Charlie Fink. We talked about Magic Leap, and he knows Ronnie, and we discussed it a bit. And then, we had some opinions. Of course, Magic Leap, a lot of hype, and went down kind of, and there's a lot of mixed feelings by a lot of people. Nevertheless, we discussed it, and I posted some snippets of those videos on LinkedIn, and then Ronnie commented on the on the video, and he said, guys, it's funny that you're discussing like the AR from within VR, and also, it's too early to judge. So give it some time, and I agree. I absolutely
Hmm.
agree. The only let's say challenge at Magic Leap right now is that they have to play a little bit of a catch-up game with
Hmm.
some other competition, like let's say HoloLens, and maybe even Unreal, right? And they have to play the catch-up game, and the reason why people are kind of looking at them very critically is because of the amount of money and hype they've created, which is, I think, that's the main reason. Otherwise, if we would be in a vacuum, everything is fine. Maybe they're in some points they're a little bit behind the competition, in some points they're actually ahead. So everything would have been fine if we would not know how much money was raised. I guess that was spoiled the people and
I
also
think you're
their
right.
incredible marketing videos. Okay, we wanted that whale
Yes,
in front of
yes.
our eyes. That didn't happen. All right, and what is your take, given that we're in a social VR world, let's say? What is your take on social VR? Do you spend time in some social VR apps, like, I don't know, Outspace or VR Chat? And how do you see that evolve in the next 5 years?
Yeah, I find it interesting. I am more of a, one-to-one or one-to-two people person. So I typically don't go in for the big events. But I have to say, whenever I put on a headset and I see that a couple of my friends, my closer friends, my sort of inner circle
Right.
are online, I love to have the facility to be able to just ping them from within a VR environment and say, hey, I'm playing a little Beat Saber, or I'm playing Super Hot, or whatever I happen to
Mm-hmm.
be doing, and invite them for a chat. And it's that experience for me, especially now that we're all, I think all of us are used to traveling so much. I think I travel about 200,000 miles a year,
Oh, wow.
and now I'm down to zero. So at least it gives me a way to stay connected with my friends who are sort of scattered all over the planet. And I think that that's really going to evolve. And again, as the tools get better, and as these, I mean, I love what you're doing here. It kind of harkens back to the early days of Second Life and what that vision was, and the fact that you're bringing in blockchain. I know Philip Rosedale. In fact, I interviewed him live on stage at the very
All
first
right,
Futureport.
Futureport. I remember. Yeah, Martin was telling me about that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was a what could go wrong moment, and actually, it went off without a hitch. So that was a testament to VR and to high fidelity at that time. But I really think that these worlds, as they scale and grow, there's whole new business opportunities and social opportunities that we haven't really even thought of
Yeah,
yet.
exactly.
And again, going back to, entertainment and concerts, you look at Travis Scott and Fortnite, and there's 10 million users live, doing that in VR, and you can stand 10 feet away from your favorite artist. I mean, that's really where I think social VR and entertainment are going to start to merge. And as well, the MMOs and multiplayer games.
Right.
I,
Right.
I think there's a lot ahead of us.
Yeah, and I think one reason we do what we do in Somnium, and the way we do it is, I believe that a virtual world, not only it's fun to hang out and be immersed in a different world and see what other people are creating, but we want to allow a lot of people to actually run a viable business inside the virtual world. So in the end of the day, this is a very liberating environment, because independently of where you are, you just need a headset, and today they cost maybe 400, but day after tomorrow it will be 200 or maybe even less. And no matter where you are, and we don't even need to know who you are, but if your skills are good, if you can create a great avatar, or you can create a great painting which you can sell on the blockchain, or whatever you can create, if you are funny and you can make a stand-up comedy or a concert, you can earn a living inside a virtual world. Now that's a great promise, because suddenly the borders will be open for everyone. right? But we just don't need to travel physically. And for some people, at some countries, we can hop on the plane at any moment of time, and we can fly somewhere. But for many people in many countries, this optionality is not there. They cannot. And for them, this will be the only way how to actually travel the virtual distance and connect with other people and create the business. So we really much believe into that promise, and we want to make it as open and as decentralized as possible. And that's why blockchain, and that's why we're bringing this thing. Our business model is not to steal your identity or trade your data. Not at all. We don't care. You can be completely anonymous in Somnium, and we don't care. The only thing we care is that you can create and monetize what you created, and then hang out here for free, and just consume. So I think for all the virtual worlds, not only our, and talking about Fortnite is, yes, it's an amazing achievement what they've done in with Travis. The only thing is what I would love to see from Epic, and I hope they will bring it at some point of time. It's more, more things how to interact within the world, right? Because in the end of the day, the core, it's a shooter game, right? And when you try to put a concert into the shooter, you end up into kind of like a very awkward situation. Nevertheless, the fact that they were able to put 10 million people at the same time, doing same thing is incredible. This is something which is, I think, they need to be praised for. And then imagine this in VR. That will be crazy. So to do the same with VR and with the host live. So
Yeah.
in terms of let's say, do you how do you perceive Oculus in role in the whole ecosystem? Where do you see Oculus going within next 2 or 3 years, and how do you think that the majority of core team members from Oculus left, let's say, and now they're completely integrated into Facebook, and there's a lot of new faces and new people inside who are dealing with even social VR or hardware. Where do you see Facebook taking Oculus and moving it forward? How do you perceive their strategy?
Well, it's really interesting because I think that, when you really look at the landscape and you look at, both HTC and Oculus, they're approaching this business from completely different standpoints. Facebook is a software company becoming a hardware company, and HTC is a hardware company becoming a software company. And so I think for both of them, they have interesting positioning and challenges. I think for Oculus, I love both, HTC and Oculus's focus on enterprise and business. And Oculus for business, I think, is great. I think because the Quest is such a beautiful piece of hardware, HTC does have the Focus Plus, but there's not quite as much content available on it. Where Quest, I think, excels is the fact that it's a consumer hardware that can also be leveraged for enterprise. And then with Oculus having an MDM solution and workplace, I think they're well positioned. What I would still love to see is more of an aggregated marketplace. In the same way we have stores for consumer content, I think that highly curated, really strong solutions make it easier for enterprise to adopt. And it's a little bit counterintuitive. It's not how enterprises buy software. They don't go to a marketplace to buy their SaaS products. But because AR and VR are so new, and VR in particular, it makes it easier for companies to start to move across business lines, because it's important once they have headsets and maybe they're using it for training or maybe they're using it for design. Well, why not now use it for collaboration? And so that's where I see the value for both HTC and for Oculus. And they both have really robust developer programs and are working with ISVs again on go-to-market. So I'd like to see a lot more of that from all the hardware manufacturers, actually.
Yeah, and that's totally right. I mean, I had Alvin here, right, and we discussed kind of a little bit of strategy for HTC and how they progress with their hardware, and also some challenges they faced this year with the with the Focus and Cosmos and stuff. So yeah, that's interesting, the different approach. Nevertheless, for example, Oculus promised to come in with the Facebook Horizon, right? And and it didn't happen. We didn't hear any news, so it should have happened in the spring. It didn't come out. What do you expect from Horizon in general, from what you've seen and read? Do you think it will become the leading virtual reality world in the world? And there are some, I always ask the same question for every guest. How do you see the metaverse, let's say, as we all say,
Hmm.
to progress? Do you think the metaverse will be many different virtual worlds, like, high fidelity, Somnium, Outspace, and maybe
Hmm.
Facebook Horizon, kind of trying to be more interconnected, and there will be many more choices? Or do you think one or two companies will dominate everything, and then the rest will be somewhere in the trail?
Well, I think it's, the way I try and position, innovation in the way I think even, companies or creators, I, I would say build what you want to have happen instead of predicting what you think might happen.
Exactly.
And I think for me personally, I'd love to see, windows and doors and access from one world into another because it doesn't serve anyone to have these closed environments, especially for social VR. I can see for obviously for enterprise
Right.
and for more, I don't know, sort of bespoke environments or maybe environments that are specific to a particular subset of people, and where privacy might be valuable. But I think in as much as we can, kind of cross pollinate. And I think, I mean, this is my beautiful avatar that you built for me. Thank you so much. I would like to be able to take this avatar from experience to experience, and have it go from mobile to web to VR to AR. And be able to change it and put on different skins and different outfits and really have this be my virtual representative across multiple spaces. And I think it is challenging to be able to do that because all companies have their own individual, they want to have their market share, they want to protect their IP. But I think we all need to start thinking more about the consumer experience and the user experience and where do we want to go societally? I mean, I think, COVID has been a great example of how globally we've had to all stand and face
Yes.
a common enemy.
Yeah.
But what about if we turn that construct into actually getting ahead of the problem? Like, why do we only come together in, the face of strife? Why aren't we finding ways to come together and make things more interoperable and have more common goals that suit all of us as opposed to individual companies? And I think this is an interesting nexus. And so, that's my hope in any case.
Okay, Amen. I agree. And by the way, an information for future guests, that every guest is getting the avatar for us as a gift. So after the show, you're
Ah,
getting the Unity
fantastic.
Unity package as an avatar, and you have all the files, and you can use it in any world which is compatible, like VR chat, for example. You'll be able to upload it there.
Ah, I
So
love
you'll
it.
have your
Thank
full
you.
avatar. And yeah, we are working on interoperability. We were actually with High Fidelity with Philip. We were the first one to showcase that people were able to seamlessly teleport from Somnium to High Fidelity. So you would come into the teleportation booth in Somnium, you would click the button on High Fidelity, and within 10 seconds you would appear in High Fidelity seamlessly without taking your headset off, no menus, anything. You just click the
That's
button and then you're
amazing.
there. So we did it in, I guess, 217 or 218, 218, I think. And there's still video if you want to search for it. Just search for Somnium Space to High Fidelity and you will find the video. And yeah, it works. We as the company were very open to that, and we also think that blockchain will help interoperability a lot. We are putting a lot of foundational things into our software to make it happen. And I also believe in the kind of open metaverse because there's enough people and players and in general, people who will be willing to consume content, and being able to go from Somnium where you have some sort of experience into some other experience, to hop in a party and then come back to Somnium where your home is, for example. That's amazing. That's the future I want to live in. I don't want all people to be in Somnium. As strange as it sounds from me, I don't want everybody be only in Somnium. It's boring, it will be boring in the end of the day. I don't want everybody will be always in, to be always in Outspace, for example, or something like it, because it will be so narrow experience that it will just become unbearable for all the players. So I think changing the environment but staying true to, one environment where you try to spend as much time as you can, that's, I think, the future. And we hope that this will evolve like that, and we'll do everything we can to actually make it like that. Yeah, I think the next topic I wanted to discuss with you, because we were going to kind of a lot of conferences, or you were going to much more than myself, but we met at several conferences last year, and I've spoken Martin Halechko, who is the founder of
Hmm.
Futureport.
Hmm.
He will be my guest as well in the next episodes
Oh, great.
here. And kind of we discussed like what could be the future of conferences in general, because COVID or no COVID, society has changed a little bit. People shifted slightly. People's expectations about how they can actually meet or talk or work together online has become more mature, I'd say. How do you see yourself and also the conference market in general evolve within the next year or two?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting because I think that we see a lot of Zoom fatigue, and I've done a number of events since COVID happened that are in different kind of online platforms, and they all have their pros and cons. But I think the benefit of all of this is that we're learning, we're getting user data, we're starting to understand what are the pitfalls, what types of environments do we need, how do we solve some of the issues of actually doing a pure play virtual conference. And I think that if people are able to join on mobile and on desktop and also in VR, those have actually been my favorite. And we have a long way to go. I mean, I had the first one I was in, I think I had 3 or 4 people just came up and they decided to like get up and dance, in the middle of a keynote from, a C-suite executive from Dassault. So, so that we have to solve for.
Right.
But there is something great about, actually going and sort of replicating a conference where we all were there and, we were able to give presentations, but then there was a great sort of social aspect to it. We were able to meet either one-on-one in private rooms to have proper meetings, and then there were social happy hours. So I think as this evolves, especially these kinds of environments, and again, I don't think we need to delineate between social VR and enterprise VR. I just think that you just build a room or an environment that suits that particular
Yeah.
use,
Hmm.
and then that's what you use it for.
Okay. Cool. And do you think that real life conferences will come back at a full spec as they used to be, or do you think something will change forever or for the long period of time right now?
I think we'll see a lot more kind of smaller, more focused
Mm-hmm.
conferences. Um, the challenge is that the economics of it is so powerful, like a CES or a South by Southwest. I mean, Austin having to cancel South by Southwest, that's a big blow
Yeah.
to that city. That's a large, percentage of their
Mm-hmm.
economy for the year, and it supports local businesses. And so I'm hoping that some version of that comes back. But the other thing I think that's interesting is that, we haven't really thought about hybrid events where there's a live component and maybe a few people go. And then there is the virtual
Mm-hmm.
component, and people can actually be there virtually, because then you can have a much broader audience. You can invite people who wouldn't normally be able to have the travel budget to go. And I think as well, to your point about just talking about these virtual environments in general, you can have the most incredible booth because you can just build it in VR.
Yeah.
And so, that's where I think we will go. But I do think naturally, I mean, I'm one of those strange people that I love being on a plane. It's my happy place.
Yeah.
So I
You're
enjoy the
so lucky.
travel, but I know a lot of people, well, I know a lot of people who don't, so I think people who don't like to travel would love to have this virtual option. And for those of us who do, we can be the ones that travel and go on site, and, people can meet with us either virtually or be there live.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm afraid of flying. So here is a confession. Controversy here. Yeah, I'm afraid of flying. So I hate flying, and I tend like in European conferences, I tend to drive everywhere. I just drive. I don't care if it's like taking me 12 hours to get there, but I'm just doing it.
You'd
My
rather
record
drive.
my record is 15 hours in a row. Okay, for
Wow,
the VR
that's a healthy
conference,
drive.
a lot of dedication. into Croatia was amazing trip, by the way, and into Split, so it was an amazing city and stuff. But
Oh
still,
yeah, yeah. Didn't
it's
get
a
to go
yeah, it's a
this year.
50.
Next year maybe.
Yeah, we'll see how it evolves. Maybe next year, but it was an amazing drive. Um, yeah, I think in general, could you or are you able to identify maybe top 3 or 5 companies which you think are the most promising or interesting from your point of view in XR, could be VR or AR, with which might be not so known to others, or maybe some known ones, which would generate some buzz in the next 5 years. What do you think those are?
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many really interesting ones. I work with a company called Orama, and they're focused on the healthcare space. I work with another company called Tailspin, who have probably one of the most powerful end-to-end training solutions I've seen. They're using AI, they're using virtual humans. And they have
Mm.
both object-based and process-based learning, as well as soft skills training. There's Body Swaps, which is a company out of Europe who basically are building empathy through virtual reality. So you are literally embodying another person.
All right.
And then there's a lot of great kind of entertainment companies kind of coming out and starting to explore this idea of, instead of this linear storytelling construct, of building worlds of exploration, and where stories happen in real time, and instead of just sitting back and sort of passively watching a story unfold, you can actually be an active participant, and you can move from one piece of the storyline to another, and then even record that and share that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to say that there's one particular
Sure.
company that's really shaping everything. But I do think that now we have a very mature ecosystem, and large companies and brands in particular, it's really not a matter of, should they be considering immersive technology? It's how and when
Yeah.
should they deploy, and then what is the priority for that?
Right, right. I totally agree with you. It's just a matter of time and realization. I think on behalf of many companies that something is happening right in front of their eyes, or maybe in parallel reality that they don't understand. And yeah, it's amazing to see when we talk to people or companies, and when they hear our numbers, let's say, and the economy and size of the economy and things which are happening here, they completely freak out, because they don't realize that that's already happening here, and they didn't even have a clue that this exists. So that's always funny to watch and to listen people react to those things. And in terms of the the future to come, if we talk about hardware, let's say VR hardware in the beginning. What is your ideal VR headset which you would wish exists today or will exist like tomorrow or this year? Given the Quest, for example, and HTC
Mhm.
Vive and Oculus, what is missing in your opinion for you, maybe personally? It could be very subjective. And what would
Mhm.
you wish to have in the VR headset to be able to wear it more and to engage more?
Well, I think I'd like my VR headset to look exactly like your glasses and
All
be that
right.
lightweight. And it's interesting because people are really split down the middle on whether or not they see a value in having kind of a hybrid AR VR glasses, or something, or maybe a hood that you would put on, and sort of, it would just cover your
Yeah.
face, and then you would take off the hood, and then you would have your AR glasses. But I think that that there's some value in that, mainly just from the fact that you don't necessarily want to have 5 and 10 different devices. Um, but yeah, I think its form factor is the number one, and
Mm-hmm.
and people should feel more comfortable being able to wear both AR and VR glasses. And the architecture for that is being built now. I mean, with between 5G and edge and cloud rendering, and then real-time rendering engines from both Unity and Unreal. I mean, we have the tools now to be able to deliver these experiences at scale in real time. So it's, Qualcomm's XR2 chip, so these are all elements that are going to help us get there. And just like our mobile phones have evolved from these kind of clunky dinosaurs
Right.
into these sleek computing,
Giants.
vessels.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and so it's going to be the same, right? It's again, we have to be a little bit more patient, which I am not, unfortunately, but I'm
I
trying to
can
be.
understand it. I can relate to that for sure. Yeah, and in terms of AR, we had a big debate with Robert Scoble here, and we were discussing Apple. And some rumors say that Apple will do a wireless glasses, so they will not be connected to the phone. Some rumors strongly suggest that they actually will be connected with the cable to the phone, and it will reproduce, kind of like Unreal does. It will reproduce and reproject the apps from the phone to your glasses. I tend personally to think about the later because I think to have a wireless headset which will have some medium advanced capabilities of some apps, you need to have this computing power from the phone, and you just cannot put it into normal form factor like Apple would want to have. So I believe that it will
Hmm.
be a cabled solution, maybe untethered variant of that for some simple things like maybe SMS or WhatsApp messages and stuff. What do you think? Do you think it will be wired, wireless?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think it's actually going to be both. And I think for your kind of day to day, when you're wearing the glasses and you're not playing a game, or it's not, a heavy graphics, experience, just to text and get directions, it'll be untethered. But the heavy compute is going to have to be done on the phone in the early days. And Apple does have a patent for that. So
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense that that's what they would do. But what we do know about Apple is they don't release a consumer product until it's ready. So if they are really coming out with something in 2022, it is going to have to be powered by the phone. And, there will be, again, all of the infrastructure that is being built now will be leveraged, including, edge compute and 5G.
Mm-hmm.
But the goal will be to get those experiences untethered. But just like today, where sometimes you switch from your mobile device to your laptop
Mm-hmm.
because you need a little bit more compute power, it'll be the same depending on what kind. So it'll be the experience will drive how you actually connect.
Okay, yeah, I totally agree with you. I think, and actually, by the way, you said 2022. Uh, I heard strong rumors that actually they might tease even this year and release next year, or tease next year and release next year in the end of the next year. So hopefully, as soon as we hope that they will do it as soon as possible because I'm not a huge fan
Exactly.
of Apple anymore, and I've told it on the previous shows just because I think they got lazy with mobile phones. But in general, I think I'm rooting for them to finally do this revolution again and show everyone how the AR could be done properly, and this will just drive the market. The same as I'm rooting for Facebook to release Horizon finally. Come on, do it,
Hmm.
because I think it will drive more people into social VR, and that will, eventually more people will be searching for other experiences, and it will drive more people to Somnium as well and to other experiences. So that's a good thing for everyone. I don't think that it will be just a dominant position for Facebook and nothing else. In terms of countries and hardware produced in the countries, how do you see who will be the leading uh, mega power in the world when it comes to VR and AR? Do you see Europe catching up, or it's China dominating with hardware plus software because they are learning fast and they are doing actually amazing job in some respect? Or do you think US will still be a leading player and dominant player in this field?
Well, I mean, again, I guess it's more of a hope than what I predict.
Mm-hmm.
I think, again, I hope that, all of these regions are big players in the VR space. And we're seeing a lot of great development as well coming out of, everywhere around the world. And on the hardware side, certainly Asia has been leading the charge. And HTC being based in Taipei, and Facebook, of course, is manufacturing in Asia as well. So it's really hard to say, where the dominance will come from. It's for me, it's around kind of distribution and the content, which is what I've
Mm-hmm.
always been focused on. And those are the things that I care about because, you can't sell hardware in a vacuum. Hardware is completely meaningless without software
Yeah.
and the experiences and solutions. And so those are the things I really focus on. And like I said, I am finding incredible solutions all over the world. I mean, I met a company in Tbilisi, Georgia,
Nice.
who are doing, VR for travel. And you just that's what's really exciting. And what's also exciting that AR is really enabling this next generation of 3D creators. And they're really democratizing. You look at like Spark AR, and it's democratizing 3D creation. And that fluency that people are developing now, and they don't even realize the value of it in the future. Like right now, we're all building face filters, and I've built some pretty terrible ones, which I will not share with you. And you will thank me for not sharing them with you. But but what that is doing is it's helping us develop this kind of creativity around 3D environments. And then now, as we get better and better, and we are in this type of a playground where we can really build anything, that to me is going to be really exciting. So, we'll have the traditional developers who are building the experiences, but then this whole new realm of creators that we're going to set loose into these virtual environments. That to me is also really exciting.
Yeah, great. It's definitely democratizing everything, and I see I see a lot of companies as well from many. I mean, we are from Prague, and we're able to have a global reach with our software, and we don't see any big problems. I think the only thing which is catching up to is like an investment
Hmm.
knowledge, let's say, but there are some big funds already happening in Europe and even in Czech Republic, so that's already catching up either with that. All right. I think with this we can slowly but steadily wrap up our discussion. It was an amazing discussion. I thank you for coming to our show. It was very interesting and insightful. We'll definitely see how it all plays out, and hopefully we can meet at some conference soon again and have a chat about what we've predicted and what actually happened, and
Indeed.
maybe ask some other people. And for the viewers, of course, thank you very much to our audience who was there with us today. Thank you for being with us. And for those who are watching it on all the social media channels, don't forget to press that like button, or I'm watching you, and subscribe and do all this stuff. And of course, remember, we were filming and we are filming this show live inside virtual reality. And until the next time, see you on the other side of the monitor. Bye bye.